Yes.
I'm keeping fingers crossed I did okay.
What was the test like?
um, it was what we did. We logged in on Zoom, and everyone was on the screen, and then the test was on Blackboard.
Hmm.
So you had to go, and it was a timed 2.5 hour test, and it would disappear after that, So, but it saved every step along the way, and you could actually go back on a question if you wanted to. When when you went to the next one, you could go to, if you remembered something, go back to the last one, and then they were always saved, and then you submitted at the end.
That's nice.
So yeah, I never did a test that way before, so it was a little, scary.
Yeah, I'm always worried about the signal dropping or having a problem like that.
Oh, oh, yeah. No.
Can you hear us, Michelle?
Yes, just barely.
Very cool. Yeah, I was talking to Britt about the chainsaw in my background. I don't know, I'm going to be quiet. Can you hear it?
No.
That's great. It's a terrific microphone. It only captures the voice in this area.
Wow.
Yeah, so I don't know what they're doing, but I guess they're taking down a tree or something. So how have you been, Michelle?
Good.
That's great. Are you excited for Halloween?
A little bit. We don't normally get too many kids because we live on a very quiet street, so I'm expecting even less, probably only our couple of neighbors that have a kid.
I see. Yeah, actually, I didn't know if Halloween was even on this year. Is it not canceled? Do you know, Larry?
If Halloween is canceled, I don't know. I don't know the answer.
I've heard that it's not, they're not doing any of the big things that they used to do in town, but that, some people are still doing it. But I expect a lot of people won't be taking their kids out, maybe just to the people they really know well and feel safe and comfortable with.
Yeah.
No, we see mostly your ceilings.
It's a interesting point. It seems that my neighbors are going, they're putting in more effort this year as far as decorating the outside, which I think is more attractive to the kids. So if I were young and I wanted to trick or treat, I would really want to go this year. But maybe they're expressing their Halloween celebration in a different way. Like they just want to put more effort into the house.
I think it's all the free time they have.
That's true.
To get
also
out there and decorate. And it's funny because I don't know if you realize, like at Christmas time, I've seen on Facebook someone post all the best houses to drive by to see the lights. And they should do something like that for Halloween, so you could do a tour of the best decorated houses.
It's a good idea. Well, we're at about 5 minutes after. I think we can get started, and if anyone else wanders in, they can join at that time. Sound good? All right. Yep. So let's get started. First, I'll share the screen. Screen 2. And let's go ahead and start this slideshow. Okay. So, can everyone see the PowerPoint?
Yep, I can.
Awesome. So we're going to continue the theme which we began last time, which was about the elemental word types in English. This time we're going to look at 4 of the most interesting. I call them derivative word types, and we'll see why. So let's begin. All right, this is just an update. I'm almost at 100,000 minutes. I think I should celebrate when I get there. So, today's game plan, we're going to have 3 sections. The first is just a brief review, so we remind ourselves what we were talking about during last training session, how we decided, or I should say, how I explained my opinion, which is that one of the best ways to explain the form that a word should take, or which word to use in a sentence, how that depends on the place in the sentence. So there's a place for the noun, and there's a place for the adjective or the adverb. Same thing for the verb. We're going to review that just so we can see how that's useful when we talk about these derivative word types. Right, so I call those 4 more tools in the toolbox. The first one is going to be the gerund, which is using a verb in a noun phrase. The second is going to be using a noun in the place of an adjective. That's going to be interesting. Then we'll talk about the participles, the present participle and the past participle. Those are verbs which we change so they can be used like adjectives. All right, and then one last comment, which is about what it really means to be fluent. So I could summarize it here, but I'll say it again. Even though we are giving students more tools when they might not be a master of the elementary sentence structures in English, what I see is a fluent person of English thinks and talks at the same time. So they choose the way to say things, because there are multiple ways, as they are thinking, and that requires options. So one part of fluency is just having all the options available. The second part is choosing the one which is normal or which sounds good. So I'll repeat that when we get to it. So just a quick review. These are the exact slides from last time. This slide was about the special challenges for language learners. The first one is relevant to today, and that's the corresponding noun, adjective, and verb forms. That looked like this. So most English words have corresponding and almost identical forms in all 3 types, nouns, adjectives, or verbs. Here was an example: conduct, to conduct, conductor, and conducive. So these are all related. They might have slightly different meanings or very different meanings, but the student, when they're trying to form sentences, will, in their head, have trouble organizing the different ones. Like, which one am I looking for? Because they're related by sound. They're organized in the brain in the same place. All right, again, advocate to advocate, advocative, cup to cup, and cupped. So all these would be organized in the same place. And which one do I use? Luckily for cup, I don't think there would be much confusion. So we focused on pronunciation for the last one. The tips we gave for how a student can overcome this is, first of all, to understand the places in the sentence. So we know which type of word fits in this place, what its purpose is. There is an element of memorization, but I recommended that we do the patterns because it's easier to remember the system, because it gives you a better chance of guessing the pronunciation for another word, like demonstrates, advocates, not so different. Demonstrator, demonstrative, conducive, demonstrative. Right? It just helps with guessing. Right? To do that, probably you require a lot of listening practice. The audio input is the best way to receive the proper pronunciation, because I've had experiences in my life as a native English speaker where I say a word and, like, Tim, what word is that? It's because I've only ever read it. That's why I said it wrong. Right, so then refine what you need. That basically means when you speak, we all talk about things which are relevant to us. Eventually, we will know how to explain our own lives. When I meet students, they're all very good at introducing themselves because they have to do it every time that they meet a new tutor. So that section of their English is very well refined, but the other parts, not so much. Or I should say more or less. Okay, So any questions on the review? All right, let's continue. We're going to begin with the gerund. I don't know if there's another name for this these days, but it seems that in the ESL community, the students know it by this name, the gerund, which was not a focus of my education when we learned about English, which was very brief. But the gerund seems to be important for learners of English. So let's take a pause, and I'll ask you, in order, since I have you all on the line on my screen. We'll start with Britt. What type of word is the red word in the first sentence?
I would say it's acting as an adjective.
Yes, that's right. Acting is acting like an adjective. Right, so Michelle, can I ask you to tell me what type of word the second one is?
They're using it as a noun.
That's right. All right, and Larry, could you tell me about the third sentence?
Verb.
Exactly. So I just wanted to show that it's the same spelling, in this case also the same pronunciation, but it has a different function and a corresponding place for that function in each of these sentences. The gerund is the second example. That's using the verb in the noun phrase, so it usually takes on the ing form. We'll talk also about number one. Number three is familiar, that's just the continuous tense. But I want to make a point about why it takes the ing form. But we'll get that when we go to the participles. All right, so many INGs. Okay, that's exactly what I just explained. So a verb as the noun phrase. The noun phrase is just that segment in the sentence where you can place something, one noun at least, and then you can stack as many adjectives as you want on top of it. But my question that I want to ask is, what goes in this blank? So blank is fun. Could you tell me some kind of verb which is fun? We'll go again, starting with Brit. Blank is fun.
Swimming is fun.
Swimming? I just didn't hear you correctly.
Yeah, swimming.
Yes, exactly. Michelle?
Dancing.
Exactly. Larry?
Running.
Exactly. So yeah, when we take the verb and we put it in this place, which is the place for the noun phrase, it takes on the ing form. That's the gerund. Okay. There is an alternative, which is to use the infinitive. We could have said to swim is fun, or to run is fun, to dance is fun. It's a question of style. When I think of the infinitive, I said here, it makes me think back to Shakespeare. To be or not to be, that is the question. To be is the question. To not be is the question. So the gerund seems more usual these days. That's why it's probably the focus. Okay, we're going to move on to the next section. This is using a noun in the place of an adjective, which I never really noticed until I started teaching English, but it seems to be very important. Okay, so what happens when you place a noun in the place of an adjective? Nothing special. It's something ordinary. It doesn't even change its form, but it tells you what type something is. For example, say I have a shelf, and I say, what kind of shelf? It's a bookshelf. All right, so book is a noun, shelf is a noun. Simply, in this case, it's so common that it becomes one word, but you can look at other examples. For example, wood stove, a wood stove, which is different from wooden stove, which would mean that the stove itself is made of wood. Probably that could work somehow. I don't know how to make it. Same thing, gold and smith, goldsmith. What kind of smith? It's a smith who works with gold. Okay, so why is this a common issue? Let's look at these examples. Which of these are grammatical? Which are normal? So the car's door, does that sound grammatical? Is it correct? I
There's
think,
nothing wrong with it. Oh, sorry, I didn't know you were. I thought
no,
you
go
were
ahead, Larry.
going to respond.
What were you going to say?
Okay, I thought you were throwing it out to the group. I was just going to say that the car's door is correct. It's possessive form, so but it's correct, but it's a little awkward. You would much more likely say the door of the. I think you would say the door of the car,
That's
Car door.
possible.
or the car door. Any of them. They're all grammatically correct.
You're exactly right. And you were also right. I was throwing it out. My pause was too short. Right. Same thing for the shelf of books. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. The shelf for books. Okay. Same thing. The bookshelf. That's the name that we use most commonly for this. I have one right here. Like, so what would I call that? I'd say that is my bookshelf. I use this example all the time, and unfortunately, it's one word. It recommended, Tim, these are better as one word rather than two separate words, even though I've been explaining it to students for a long time. Take, for example, book and shelf. What kind of book? What kind of shelf? A bookshelf. My recommendation is to encourage your students to think of the noun in the adjective place first, uh, because most commonly they try to use a possessive form or a form which relies on a preposition, such as the shelf for books or the car's door. Those to me don't sound as ordinary as, well, let's look at these examples. The table in the kitchen versus the kitchen table, or the room for guests versus guest room. The screen of my phone versus the phone screen, the TV screen, the computer screen. As far as I can tell, this is the point down here, the noun as an adjective form is distinctly native sounding, whereas the alternatives are distinctly foreign sounding. If someone chose to use the room for guests instead of saying guest room, I would say that person probably is not a native speaker. Which is, of course, it's not ungrammatical, so there's no problem. But I think the recommendation should be try to remember if you want to tell what type something is, try to use the noun plus noun form. This question here seems to be very helpful. I just say, well, what type of something? Noun something. For example, if I have my globe, right, and this is its stand, I could say the stand of the globe, or I could just say this is the globe stand. Simple enough. That might not be so common, but it's one combination. All right. Any questions? Let's continue. So this is an interesting section. We're going to talk about the verbal adjectives or participles. We're going to start with the present participle before we hit the past participle. There's a lot of text on this, so let's work through it and find the participle in the sentence. What type of bird? A flying bird. I could have a sitting bird. I could have a flying bird. But what we're doing here is we're giving a quality to a noun, like an adjective would normally do, right? Instead of saying something like red bird, right? Or using what we had with the noun, like car engine. What kind of engine? It's a car engine. You can give a quality using a verb. Now, if that quality is in progress, ongoing, or continuous with the item of the sentence, we use the ing form of the verb. So take a look here. Yesterday I was walking along the river when I saw an eagle flying overhead. The next sentence is basically the same. Yesterday I was walking along the river when I saw a flying eagle overhead. So we can place the adjectives on either side. In fact, in the old style, I think we had more flexibility with adjectives. They didn't always have to be before the noun, they could be after. So with the participle, it seems that we've preserved that in a way. Both of these blocks are grammatical, but we tell a quality about the eagle, which is like a verb, it's an action. At the time that I'm talking about, relative to this time, it's ongoing, so we use ing. I said I was going to make a point about why we use the ing form in the continuous tenses. I think really that is the participle at that place. Take a look. Here I have I was hungry, normal adjective. I was sick. I was happy. I was walking. Basically, it's the same kind of structure, and we're using this verbal adjective in the adjective place. I was some quality, but this quality has action implied. Color just has appearance implied. I mean, I could say there's scientific reasons behind why, maybe material reasons. It's made of something which reflects red light. So that's qualities that we give something when we say it's red. If we say I am walking, we're giving qualities to me, but now these qualities have some action component. So I have a note here which is not so important. I just wanted to try to put into words what I was just explaining. It seems that the subject verb object relationship is actually conveying qualities on items of existence. So where doing an action is a quality of the subject, and the subject is a quality of an action insofar as it is its origin and cause. Right, I don't want to go too deep into that because I actually think this, I actually think this is a subject in philosophy. So I know that it's already been talked about previously. Right, so the acting was done by the actor. So acting as an action implies some item doing the action, which we call the actor. Right, so I write the book. This gives us qualities about the book. The book is being written, and it gives us qualities about the subject. I have written some part of the book. All right, there's a typo here. I apologize. That actually, when I've tried to explain the perfect tenses, like I have been to London, when I get to the bottom of why we chose have as English speakers in the development of this language, why did we choose have as our auxiliary verb? Again, I think it returns to this quality. I'm saying something true about myself. I have eaten an egg today. Right? It's just a quality about me that's true now. So I say I have this quality. Apparently the name of the quality is eaten an egg. But that's a topic for another day. So let's continue about participles. If the quality is finished, complete, or done relative to the time of the item in the sentence, you should use the past participle. Okay, unlike the ing form of the verb, we have an additional complication. It could be the normal ed form, a normal or regular past tense, or the past participles very frequently have irregular forms. Fortunately, these are well documented. Most students have actually, well, say they learned English in school, they have been presented with the irregular forms. If they make a mistake, they're just trying to remember. It's more like a slip instead of not having the knowledge that this is an irregular form. So if you want to teach your students about the irregulars, they're listed. So you could easily type on a search engine and find printouts, which you could give them, and it will have all the irregular forms together. Okay, so let's take a look at some examples of using past participles in the adjective place in the sentence. Okay, so what kind of glass? The broken glass on the ground made me nervous. The assignment will be submitted by this time next week. So I wanted to show you're going to give a quality to this assignment in the future. The assignment will be submitted by this time next week. Often I think about that. I was like, when am I going to be done with this? Well, next week I'll be free. Right? The essay will have been written by this time next week. He is a wanted man fleeing the law. There's two together. He is a wanted man fleeing the law. I suppose we could say he is a wanted fleeing the law man, but it seems the organization is better this way. So let's summarize how this can be helpful to the student. These go in a logical order. So to begin, I always find that returning to the place in the sentence understanding, which I tried to convey in the last lesson, is a good way for speakers from multiple different backgrounds trying to learn English. It's a good way for them to understand how the basic types fit in the sentence and which ones to choose. So I'll just ask, is this the place of a noun, adjective, verb, or adverb? All right, from there, what is the word, the student would ask this, or you could help them. What is the word I need and its related forms? So again, those related forms are probably organized in the same place in their mind, and they might have some confusion about which one it is. That comes next. But we want the options internalized. That's a step in the learning process. It might not happen when they're forming this sentence, but over time, if they want to complete language or complete skill with English, they will want to have a complete vocabulary about a certain word. And I think one of the best ways to be a skilled user of English is to understand what words are related. So that's why the thesaurus is very useful. If you want to choose the right word for what you want to say, even as a native speaker, going into the thesaurus and looking for the related words is extremely useful and pretty fascinating. But the better you can do that without the thesaurus, the more of a master you are. I'm not very good. I always use the thesaurus. In fact, I think my speaking has gotten worse in a way since I've started teaching English. In fact, there's a very famous linguist, I don't remember his name, and he had a LinkedIn, and it was like the most basic sentences in English explaining who he was. It's like, so I guess studying language made him kind of weird. Yeah, I noticed that I started to speak in much simpler sentences than before. I used to kind of just like run away with the sentence, which probably wasn't so good because communication should be as clear as possible. Okay, so let's get back to this list. First, understand the proper place. That lets you choose. That lets you know what type of word you need. And you should have the word internalized and its related form, so you can choose it. And then you have to choose the grammatical forms in this place. Like we showed before, there might be multiple ways to say it, but the best thing to do is to choose the normal or stylish form. So what would the native speaker use, or what is conventional to the time? Because if you want it to sound like you're from the 1800s, maybe you could change your language. So that is a question of what style do I use at the time. Okay, the next section of points, first number 5, verbs in the noun place usually take the gerund form, though they can take the infinitive form. Nouns as adjectives seem to be more common to tell what type something is than to make a possessive form or to make a form which relies on a preposition, like the door of the car, instead of just the car door. So I recommend that the student try to form the noun plus noun, or I should say the noun as an adjective form. Right, and the final one, verbs as adjectives are participles. Again, if the quality is ongoing relative to the item of the sentence, use the ing form. If the quality is complete relative to the item of the sentence, use the third form. That's what they typically call it, the third form. Like drive, drove, driven. They focus on the third one. So that's irregular at all levels. Drive, drove, driven. Maybe not the first level. Same thing, write, wrote, written. Eat, ate, eaten. Third forms, eaten. That's the past participle. And that's typically how the students remember them. Right? Any questions before our last section? Very nice. I mean, please ask questions. I don't mean very nice. Thanks for, making this go quickly, but I mean, always feel free to ask questions. So, don't despair. Go forward. What I conclude from these word types that we've examined is that there's a lot of ways to say things. So, when we are trying to speak a language, even if it's English, like me, I'm trying to find the words now, or if it's a foreign language, just work your way through the sentence. Stay confident and try to figure it out as you go along, because there are many options about how you can say things. That's the first component of fluency, right here, the second step, right? Then, when you can use all of the options, then you can choose which is normal or which is the most stylish. That's the trait of mastery of the language, where you have everything available to you and you choose the correct one, the conventional one, or the most beautiful, or the most clear. Okay, so those are the two components of fluency, in my opinion. All right? So let's do something fun. We're going to improve an example. Here it is. Is it large enough? Can you read it? So what is this? There's a famous exam in Japan, which is only writing, reading, and also listening, but not speaking, which is interesting enough. It's called the Eiken exam, and it's offered by the Japanese government, I believe. or some accredited Japanese organization. So they have levels, and you climb up to the first level. And this is an example of the essay composition at the first level, which is the final one. So what I want to do is basically look at this and see if we can improve it. Maybe we can choose maybe we can choose forms which we learned today. But that's not the point. The point is basically to see that if there's something in this that we can change, there's probably more than one way to change it. Don't pay attention to the colors. I'm just showing you the example as it was sent to me from my student. Okay? So let's look at the first one. Oh, by the way, the topic is agree or disagree, Japan's birth rate will increase in the coming decade. So the student said this: in recent years, birth rate has been a controversial topic, and I completely agree that birth rate will increase more in the coming years. So we'll stop there. First, any changes for the first section? This first sentence.
Well, I would say agree that the birth rate will increase more in the coming years. I would put the in there after that.
Mhm.
I think it sounds better.
Mhm.
Yes, I agree. In fact, I think that's the only change. Right? In recent years, the birth rate has been a current controversial topic. And again, agree that the birth rate will increase. All right, let's continue. So first, spending money is a heavy burden for the people, which is a normal typo, raising children. Hey, look at that. People raising children. We have a present participle involved. Right? That looks correct to me.
Except for the double for the people, for the
Yep.
people.
I wonder if they would take away points for that on this exam. All right, next sentence. This is because the poor have trouble making a living. All right, that seems fine to me. Therefore, the government gives financial support in order to not only pay for medical bills and school lunch fee, but also learn at academy. Okay, any suggestions for this sentence?
Well, I would put fees. Fees should be plural because we're talking medical bills. So we would say for medical bills and school lunch fees.
Mm-hmm.
And then change learning, but also learning. I don't know. That learn at academy doesn't sound right.
Yeah, I think it doesn't sound right also. Let's talk about that in a second. Go ahead.
The government gives financial support in order to pay instead of to not only pay.
But also learn at academy. It's an interesting suggestion. I think it's possible, but as a style choice, we don't necessarily need it, right? So let's look at the learn at the end. That didn't sound right to me also, and I wondered why. The logic, I think, is here, if you can see my mouse, we have a 2.
Mhm.
And the question is, does the 2 carry across not only, yes, apply to medical bills, school lunch fees, and then again to learn? I think it might, but we should probably, based on sound, because it's so far away, we forget if it's there. The best thing to do might be just to put it back in, right?
Yeah.
The government gives financial support in order to learn at academy. Would be possible if we took out the middle. But I don't, this is what I told my student, I don't recommend that you keep that 2 so far away. If there's no harm in putting another one to pay for medical bills and to pay for school lunch fees, but also to learn at academy. So that would be the simplest change. Just put a 2 at this point. All right, let's keep going. Second, it has been focused on the importance of work balance.
What?
What do you think?
What is the it?
It's a good question. So it is raining. What is the it? The world. Yeah. Or it is good to be here. I think that's the form that's trying to be imitated here. A person who's learning English might say, when they make a statement, sometimes they start with it. It's raining today. It's good to see you. It has been focused on the importance of work balance, but it's not normal.
Mm-mm.
Is it grammatical? So even though it's not normal, is it everything here grammatically correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
It has been focused on the importance. Yeah, true, right? John has been focused on the importance of work balance. So that would be possible. It's just not normal as it is. So how could we rewrite the sentence? First, we would want to clarify the meaning, I think. So I would ask the student, what are you trying to say here? Before I presume to translate it into ordinary English. So she just means that, actually, that would give you the answer, or one of the answers. I'll give you one of the answers. Okay, so there has been a lot of focus on the importance of work balance. That's what the student is saying. That's one way.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any other ways to say the same thing? This is why I said you should think and talk at the same time, because you might end up at either end of the sentence. Let's look at it. Let's listen to a different example. Work balance has been a subject of great focus in recent years. So I started with work balance and I had to find my way to the end of the sentence. If I switch it and I start with a great focus, maybe it would be like this. A great focus of many workers recently has been how well they can balance their life and their work. So I started at one end and I just had to find my way to the completion. All right. Let's go to the next sentence. The way of work is diverse. Is it grammatical?
It's probably grammatical, but it doesn't really have much meaning. I mean, you could say the way is diverse. Again, it's grammatically correct, but it's a terrible sentence.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was confused at this point. Let's continue just so we get some more context. This is because we can use babysitter system, remote work, and reduced working hours. So with that context, I asked the students, what exactly are you trying to say when you say the way of work is diverse? And when you say way, do you mean like a method? And the student said yes. So the way we changed it was this. The ways people can work have become more diversified, meaning you have a lot more options. And we have a problem. I don't know why it's in red here, but I don't think this is because it's a good transition to the next thing. is it really because of the availability of babysitters, or that people can work remotely, or business hours have been reduced?
I
Uh,
would say, for example.
yes, something like that. For example, we can use babysitters,
Mhm.
remote work, or reduced working hours. Now, another question. What do you think the student means with babysitter system? What is that?
Daycare?
Yeah. Is it the ordinary way to say it?
No.
So what I asked was, is this something offered by the government? Is it one specific thing which exists in Japan for parents? And she said, no. I said, so probably babysitter system is not the best name for it. If there was a babysitter system offered by the government, that would be one thing which we could specify. Something just happened. But it should be fine. However, in this case, we just mean we can hire a babysitter. And that would be the ordinary way to say it. All right? And let's move on. Actually, a lot of parents are annoyed by the time management. Is that a possible sentence?
I don't get it. But the time management.
I think it's grammatical, but obviously we weren't able to say, is that normal right away? So what would be a way to change it which would sound more normal?
I don't understand the sentence.
Actually, a lot of parents are annoyed by the time management. So in that case, we would ask the students, what do you want to say with this sentence? And I think it's actually close to this form here. The time management causes a lot of stress for parents. So I think basically this is fine. Actually, a lot of parents have trouble with time management or are annoyed by the difficulty of managing their time. Those are fine.
Hmm.
Okay? They really want to work even they have children. How about this sentence?
Well, like it needs something else in there. They really want to work even though they have children, or, parents with children want to work.
Yes, that's the suggestion. So it's interesting, even here is not the fundamental, even though, conjunction, right? They really want to work though they have children, right? Even though makes it a stronger reversal. They really want to work even though they have children. However, the student picked up on the even component and forgot the though component. Even is not a conjunction. What is it? I think it's more like a emphatic particle. Even John was afraid. It just makes it a stronger sentence. Unless we use it like an adjective, the levels are even. Okay, and the final one. Therefore, introducing many working styles are expected to be beneficial to increasing the birth rate. Okay, so I liked this sentence. It's relevant to what we talked about today. Introducing many working styles is a noun phrase. right? So which form is introducing here?
Gerund?
Yes, right? Are expected, is this a past participle? I think so. Welcome back, Larry.
Okay. What happened?
I don't know. I noticed like some change. I was like, wow, something happened. And I was like, I wonder what. And then I looked over, I was like, oh, Larry's not here. Maybe he had a signal problem.
Did everybody get kicked off, or was it just me?
Just you.
Oh man, I don't know what happened there. Okay.
So we're looking at the last sentence, which is relevant to what we talked about today. We have a gerund. Therefore, introducing many working styles are, which I think is wrong. I think it should be is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right?
But I also think I would say introducing many work styles is expected.
Interesting point. So yeah, style. So if we had a noun as an adjective, work, style,
Mm-hmm.
that's exactly what we had today. Great suggestion. Apparently, though, working styles is another option. That's the present participle to describe it's the working style. Not the static style, the working style. Right, so introducing many work styles is expected to be beneficial. Is expected, that should be a past participle. Right, so we have another one of the participles here. Is expected to be beneficial to what? To John? To another noun phrase, increasing the birth rate.
I think I would say to increase the birth rate.
Interesting point. So yeah, that is also possible. It's the infinitive versus the gerund.
Mm-hmm.
But you gave me an example which is not like Shakespeare. To increase the birth rate is a difficult challenge. Here we have expected to be beneficial to increase the birth rate. That's fine, not Shakespearean. All right. Was that an interesting exercise?
Mm-hmm.
Great. So this is our last question slide. Any questions or comments before we end? How about suggestions or requests? Because I haven't chosen a topic for next month. Is there anything you've been thinking about or any challenges which you've had? If you can't think of anything now, you can always email me. Right? You can email me questions anytime. But next month, which is going to be the 17th, I believe, we're not going to do this on, it's the 19th. So we're moving from the 17th to the 19th.
Day of the week?
That's a Thursday. Is that all right? Same time, 11:30 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
But the Thursday is more convenient for me.
That's fine with me.
Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah.
All right, terrific.
As long as they send out the link.
Yes. Did anyone have any trouble with the link this time?
No.
Yeah, it was nice and fresh. Because I normally have to enter from an old email, but this time it was sent out to me, which is great. All right, so thanks very much for listening to this topic, which was not clear to me before I started teaching English, but now it's one of my favorites, even though I barely understand it. So thanks, Britt. Thanks, Michelle. Thanks, Larry. I'll see you next time.
Okay, thank you.
Of course. All right, take care.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.